All right, Shalom. All right, first and foremost, I to give all the praises, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Ruka HaKadosh. I like to say double honors and respect to all my apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well and taught us this truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect in the one-third. This is Brother Salah. All right, in today's video, all right, we're gonna be bringing some precepts out on this video right here. It's called Small Hat Soldier expresses regrets and unalives himself. Right, this is from the Jimmy Dore show. He's been featured on the Elder Malcolm and other brothers videos. Those, but he goes in on them small hats, man. He goes in on Amalek, right, and so before I play the video, I'm gonna read the copyright disclaimer here. All right, disclaimer: copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use, fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All right, so with that out of the way, we're gonna play the video.
October 7th, the date that ruined my life and destroyed everything I was. I can't anymore. I am ruined and devastation. I did things that cannot be forgiven, and I can't live with it anymore. No one understands me anyway. There is a I wonder what he thinks he did that can't be forgiven. So, bit of sad news, or maybe not for you. There's an IDF soldier offed himself, and he made a Facebook post about how screwed up he is for serving in the Israeli bombing, and what everybody's saying is a genocide in Gaza. So I'll read this to you. It says Lithuanian Israeli officer who served in Gaza ended his life and wrote on Facebook before doing so, October 7th, the date that ruined my life and destroyed everything I was. I can't anymore. I am ruined and devastation. I did things that cannot be forgiven, and I can't live with it anymore. No one understands me anyway. There is a I wonder what he thinks he did that can't be forgiven. So there might be a twist to this. So let's read the rest of it. There's a demon inside me that has been chasing me since October 7th. Please forget me and remember the Thomas who was an officer and a sniper. So he wants to be remembered as an officer and a sniper commander. Isn't that weird? That he would then off himself because he did things that cannot be forgiven? Huh. But he still wants to be remembered as an officer. And isn't that weird, right? So what is he trying to be for? Anyway, so that Thomas died on the 7th. That Thomas died on October 7th. I am only a soul searching for peace. For 2 years now, I haven't been able to live with myself. He was a Lithuanian Israeli named Thomas Adzagakas. And this is from Haaretz, Hebrew Media. But it's from Warfare Analysis Twitter account. So he wants to be remembered as a sniper commander. That's something to be proud of.
All right, so we're gonna open up with the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 16. It says here, "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." And that's right, man. Esau, Edom, right here. This Amalekite. This small hat, this tiny top. Off himself because he feels shame for what he did, man. As you come to find out later in the video, man. Because of the whole thing that happened, in Gaza, with Hamas, man. He actually ended up killing his own, right? And he felt guilty of that, right? So eventually, that ate away at him, and he eventually, deleted himself, man. And that's Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, plaguing his mind, right? Starting to put the curses on our enemies, right? for all the wickedness that that they're doing, right? It's a scary thing. That the Lord can do that to someone, right? And let's get that precept. All right, this is the book of Ecclesiastes, or the book of Sirach, chapter 25, verse 13. And it says here, "Give me any plague but the plague of the heart, meaning the mind, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman," because women on this side, especially, man, how wicked they can get, they can lead a man, or they can cause him, Salaki, they can cause a man to go off. All right, so and that's basically what happened to this Amalekite right here, man. Offed himself because he felt guilty for what he did, man. Killing all those innocent children, including his own fucking people, man. So I'm gonna let the video continue on.
Right? Don't they snipe children? So Sia says, well, he finally killed a terrorist. Raj says, a sniper commander? I guess he didn't think sniping kids will come back to haunt him. Still, if he was truly sorry about what he did, he would have exposed the whole thing instead of taking his life. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy says, the hard truth says, he probably talking about the Hannibal directive. They massacred their own people on October 7th. So is that what he's talking about?
Well, he said
That
the 7th.
he massacred his own people on October 7th? Is that what he's talking about? That he was one of those guys who was told to kill his own people? Is that what this is, the stuff he can't be forgiven for? Because he wants to be remembered as an IDF sniper and commander.
We're going to pause it right there. And I'm going to bring out a couple of precepts, right? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 64, verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away, man. And as you see right here, man, and supposedly, he appears to be an Edomite. I think which I think he is most likely. But that applies to the point, man. Esau's, telling on himself, man. And he's really exposing himself, man. What he is he's just presenting what Esau's already saying about himself, man. The fact that he fucking feels guilty about what he did, with that with that Operation Hannibal or whatever, of him killing his own people, man. It shows you, man, that this motherfucker ain't nothing but the wicked on earth, man. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of Yahweh, for they shall wisely consider his doing. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, and shall trust in him, and the upright and heart shall glory. That's what the apostles and elders and the brothers on down are doing, man. They pushing this work out, man, truth and sincerity, man, on the highways and byways. Telling our people to repent, right? And especially exposing, the wickedness of this damn devil Esau Edom, man. Who just offed himself. Yeah, as you see in that corner right here, he, for all the wickedness that he's doing, and I like to bring out another precept, Ecclesiastes, the book of Sirach, chapter 14, verse 5. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods, and that's exactly what you see right now, man. He's not taking pleasure in what he's doing. He's not taking pleasure or pride, man. He says he wants to be remembered as his top sniper or whatever. But the fact is, he ain't nothing but a piece of shit coward. Killing innocent children, and now forced to kill his own people, man. He ain't nothing but a damn loser, man. And the Lord's bringing all this to light, man. Bringing Esau's pride very low, and that's what's happening right now. The curses are starting to fall upon, this damn devil.
The guy before October 7th. So it's maybe doesn't that seem plausible that maybe he can't live with himself because if he had to take part of the Hannibal directive? I don't know, but that sounds very plausible. Sounds more plausible. That's what I think. I mean, as if it wasn't hard enough to get sympathy for this guy's letter, he's not even sorry for what he actually did, it sounds like, right? It's like some guy saying he couldn't. Yeah. Well, here, Former Israeli Prime Minister Yoav Gallant admits Israel killed its own with Hannibal directive on October 7th and blamed Hamas. Helicopters, drones, and tanks were used. So we know this. We've already. This has been reported widely. We know this. This guy says, Michael Wiley says, seriously, stop with the propaganda. No one is buying this fake narrative. The spike in IDF suicides has to do with their illegal and inhumane actions. It's the psychological blowback of a genocide, mandatory conscription, trauma, and a system that chews its own people up and turns them into psychotic monsters. That's documented fact. And yes, some soldiers have openly admitted to doing things they can't live with. That's their words, not mine. But pretending every single one is suddenly a saint who discovered morals is fan fiction. If you actually cared about Israel, you'd want the war crimes investigated, the occupation ended, and mental health support improved, not posting emotional manipulation to excuse decades of abuse and genocide. Learn the facts, okay? That's what he says. Until then, no one gives an F about immoral IDF terrorists. And as far as the world is concerned, they have no place in civil society with their heinous actions against humanity. Israel is a Zionist terrorist state. So he's saying that is. So this post about this guy feeling horrible is propaganda to get you to somehow forgive those people because they have a conscience. And he's saying, don't fall for it.
And we're gonna pause right there, man, and see this is the same tactic that Esau does, man. You know, mind manipulation, you know, control shifting and trying to control the narrative. You know, trying to pull on your heartstrings or whatever the fuck this damn devil tries to do, man. You know, you know to seize control of the masses, right? You know, that's why he calls you goy, which he thinks is cattle, but really goy just means nations, man. And really he's the true goy, man. He's the other nations, man. And and so this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 47, starting at verse 12. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, where thou hast labored from thy youth. If if so if so be thou shalt be able to profit. If so be thou mayest prevail, right? And they're not prevailing, right? Their whole bullshit propaganda of their Zionist small hat and agenda. People are starting to see for what it is, man. As you'll say, later in the video, man, it's what Esau's always been doing. Colonization, man. The devil ain't come, but to rape, rob, steal, and kill, man. And and that goes back to his blessing the sword, man. Yeah. Going all the way back to the book of Genesis, where Isaac blessed Esau with the sword. This damn devil. He's come here to he's come here to do the bidding of the work of Satan, man. And now because he's at his end, right? He wants to gain as much sympathy from the people, but people are starting to see through that bullshit, man. This devil, he ain't gonna get no sympathy. He's not gonna get a single ounce of mercy when he gets to the fucking Salaki. This devil ain't gonna get any fucking mercy when he gets to the kingdom, man. And his ass about to be his ass about to be destroyed, man. All right, continuing on verse 13. Thou art weird in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it, right? And that's what's ultimately the Lord's going to do, man. The Lord's going to send them ICBM, thermonuclear missiles, to destroy Babylon the Great, aka America, and the Holy Land, right? That Holy Land got to be cleansed. The only difference is the Holy Land's gonna get rebuilt, man. By you Edomites, you Amalekites, and the other heathen nations. While Babylon the Great, aka America, is going to be nothing but but a desolate wasteland forever, man. It's gonna be like Sodom and Gomorrah. It's gonna be a constant reminder of of what not to live, or how not to live, or how not to rule rather, or what happens when you rebel against the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai, you, and against His people, man. You're gonna be left in ruins.
That this has to do with their inhumane actions, the psychological blowback of a genocide, mandatory conscription, which means mandatory service in the military, trauma, and a system that chews its own people up and turns them into psychotic monsters. So, and he's saying, don't do it. Don't feel sorry. Chris Hedges says, children have been shot in other conflicts I've covered, but never before have I watched as soldiers entice children like mice into a trap and murdered them for sport. So that's what Chris Hedges says he's witnessed the IDF, the Israeli soldiers, doing in Gaza. I like this definition of Zionism. It says,
all right, this is the book of wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 11. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing worth. And that's how basically Amalek sees justifying his actions, shooting his other nations. Why? Because he has that blessing of the sword, right? But Yahweh Bashim Yahshai is getting ready to take these devils down, man. And soon, man, they're gonna learn the errors of their ways, man. That you just can't go out, killing anyone for no reason, man. There's gonna be repercussions for that.
as an inherently violent and terroristic movement for colonizing Palestine through the theft of Palestinian land and the ethnic cleansing of an indigenous Palestinians in order to create a Jewish supremacist settler colony.
Oh, and another thing, those Palestinians, those Ishmaelites, of course, there's some Jake scattered in the Holy Land and in Palestine, right? But but the main point is, man, this, like I said, this devil ain't come but to steal, kill, and destroy, right? So let me get another precept. This is the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 2. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man and his heritage, right? And that's exactly what these devils do, man. With their whole Zionism, right? Right. People are starting to figure out, man. That these JOO-ish people, man, they basically run and control the whole world, and it's an elite group of them, man. They run and control Babylon, the media, your food, the stuff that they put in the food, water, air, man. These devils are being found out.
That's exactly what it is. And here's Holocaust survivors. Dr. Hayo Meyer, Auschwitz survivor, said this: call Zionists what they are, Nazi criminals. Here's another one. Israel's former ambassador to UN calls Palestinians inhuman animals. Dan Gillerman says he is very puzzled by the constant concern for the Palestinian people. Yeah, they're inhuman animals. So you have to do that in order to be able to genocide people. You have to tell yourself, you have to dehumanize them, make them less than human, so you could slaughter them and sleep at night. And that's what they do. That's what Zionism's all about. That's what it's all about. And it is built on stolen land that's not their own. And as Christopher Hitchens said, it was always a bad idea to try to start a Jewish state on stolen land from Palestinians. It was never going to work because you're occupiers. That's the problem. They're occupiers. So, okay, I don't know if you feel sorry for that guy or not, but
And we can stop the video right there. So let's bring out a few more precepts. This is Numbers chapter 24, verse 20. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. Right? right? And that's what you see right now. Amalek, is pretty much running the world. And like what Mr. Jimmy Dore said, man. They tried to set up their own J-double-O-ish state, man, and or and but they know it wasn't gonna work because they know it's stolen land, right? Right, and that ensued, man. That's gonna play into the controversy of Zion, right? Let's get that precept. Controversy of Zion. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 38. That's Slakia. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 8. For it is the day of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's vengeance, and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion. On right. So these people are getting found out, to be the fake, phonies, imposters, right? They're not the children. They're not the Lord's chosen people, right? They're not the children of the Lord, man. They're the Lord's most hated people, man. Edomites, Amalekites, right? Right, and the Lord's true chosen people are declaring themselves, man. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, right? And you Israelite foreigners, you speckled birds scattered amongst the heathens that look like the heathens, but your seed line / sperm line goes back into Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, man. The true Hebrew Israelites. In these last days are declaring themselves, man. That's why Amalek, Esau, man, pertaining to Revelation 12 verse 12, he's about to come down with that great wrath, man. He's going after the tribes, with ice. He's using the cruel Lord spoken in Isaiah chapter 19 verse 4, Caesar Nero, using ice. And eventually the National Guard, to go against the northern, the southern kingdom. Esau, man, he's about to bring that same hatred, from Hamas over to here, man. That that great wrath, man. That great day's coming. Right, this is the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 8, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and that's the prophesying with the with the apostles and elders, a great millstone on down, and the brothers teaching the likewise doctrine. Exposing who this devil is, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Obviously not every white person, but the line that goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Esau, the biblical Edomites, right? The wicked of the earth, as the scriptures speak of. They're the border of wickedness, and shall destroy them, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, man. That's when Yahushua returns, man. And Esau gets destroyed with them ICBM nuclear missiles. Once they implement that MOTB, that micro C-hip, right? That's when the Lord's lights are gonna get beamed up, during the midst of all that. Revelation chapter 18 verse 6. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled filled to her double, right? So the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yashai, he's gonna recompense Babylon, and these Edomites for what they did, man, and they're gonna get double, man. So everything that they did unto us, man, minus the Mo alphabet lifestyle stuff, man. We got double unto them, man. They gonna get unimaginably worse in the kingdom. Right? How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Oh, and that's talking about Babylon the Great, America. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord Yahweh who judge her. And that's when them ICBM nuclear missiles are going to get fired off from around the world, hitting Babylon the Great, America. All right, all right. So with that, we're going to end off this, this lesson right here. Hope this lesson has been edifying to you, Akim, and you Akwath. And with that, I like to say, Call Halayim La, Abanawa, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Ruka Kadash. Double honors and respect to our apostles and elders, a great millstone, who rule well and taught us truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect in the 1/3. This is Brother Salah, and with that, I just say Shalom.